in the air, on land and underwater. Industries are contaminating our natural environment, often with impunity. Waste and pollutants threaten the health of millions of people. But it's getting harder for perpetrators to hide. Join us on Eco India as we discover efforts to track and stop toxic practices. Hello and welcome. I'm Sanuta Raghu. Unlike what you see here, the thick haze that engulfs many Indian cities is a visual reminder of a killer that is impossible to escape. Globally, air pollution accounts for 7 million deaths every year. A city in the national capital region tops the list of the cities with the world's worst air. We headed there to find out why.
It has been called the world's most polluted city. Bhiwadi, about 70 kilometers away from India's capital Delhi. It is an industrial hub and a notorious polluter. The recently released World Air Quality Index by IQ Air, a Swiss air monitoring company, has reported that Bhiwadi has the highest fine particle concentration in the world.
Bhiwadi is an industrial town, and the major problem of that region or that city has been the industries. The industries have not adopted the cleaner technologies so far. Cleaner fuel has also not reached the city as such. So for instance, in Delhi, the city, most of the industry run on LPG or gas, which is not the case with Bhiwadi. That's a problem. There's also a big issue of waste burning. So a lot of industrial waste which is generated in the city is burned without much controls or concern for pollution, and that also adds to the pollution in the city. Further, there are also regular issues of traffic. There's a lot of traffic in the city.
The culprit is particulate matter 2.5, a dangerous fine particle with a diameter of up to 2.5 micrometers. This is much thinner than a human hair. The tiny air particle can be made of toxic carbon, metals, plastic, and normal dust. It can damage the lungs, reducing their capacity to absorb oxygen. With over 100,000 residents, Bhiwadi is also a heavily polluted area, with a large number of people living close to cement, steel, petroleum, and plastic manufacturing plants. The toxic fumes have been severely impacting the health of Bhiwadi's residents, especially children. Sudesh, a 21-year-old Bhiwadi resident, lives in one of these neighborhoods. Her 2-year-old son, Jassi, suffers from acute respiratory issues and needs regular nebulization.
My child started to breathe heavily. He caught a cold and coughed, so we took him here. We have a machine at home. When my son starts to breathe heavily, we use it. If that doesn't give him relief, we take him to the hospital.
Sudesh blames the emissions from the factories, which are mostly still coal-fired. Long-term exposure to fine dust particles can cause other health problems, from asthma even to lung cancer. Minor symptoms like fatigue or body aches are widespread.
The routine cases of acute respiratory infections range from 5 to 10%. But when pollution rises, it reaches up to 20%.
People who work outdoors are at high risk. Amarjeet Das does construction work to provide for his family. He has little choice but to risk his own health to earn money to survive.
These companies have furnaces burning inside. A light diesel oil company nearby creates a lot of pollution. This should be penalized, but it is not. What can we do? We are laborers. We have to earn money to eat.
In 2021, the government came up with a local action plan for cleaner fuels, like compressed gas or piped natural gas. Making those alternatives accessible to all industries is a major infrastructural challenge. So far, only 20% of industries in the Bhiwadi region have shifted to cleaner fuel.
Electricity if possible, if electricity not possible, at least to gas, which pollutes less. And for that, that infrastructure needs to reach the city, and that needs to be made, and this electricity or gas need to be made available to the industry at a rate which is comparable and competible for them, so that they don't go back or try to use other fuels illegally.
R.S. Rathi is one of the few industrialists who switched from coal to natural gas. He owns a conveyor belt manufacturing plant. Installing a piped natural gas or PNG system was costly.
Pollution normally increases each year after the Diwali festival. Then, a decision was made to shift from coal to natural gas. There didn't used to be a PNG line, but in January, the PNG line opened. We shifted to PNG right away and quit using coal.
और जनवरी में यहाँ पीएनजी लाइन आई आते हमने यहाँ से शिफ्ट कर दिया हमने कोयला बंद कर दिया और पीएनजी चालू कर दिया
Rathi says that switching from coal to PNG has helped him reduce emissions. He says it is a relief to provide a healthier environment for his workers.
Even though our manufacturing costs have risen, we felt this was the right choice when considering the worsening pollution.
थोड़ा नुकसान हो जाए पर सेफ्टी जरूरी है पोल्यूशन हटाना जरूरी है
The city council is now taking action to improve the lives of Bhiwadi residents. In the future, trash burning will be more closely monitored and dumps will be constructed for industrial waste. The administration has already introduced other measures.
In the few months since the air quality report was published, the government has begun monitoring pollution on the roads. They have planted more trees. They are paying more attention. We hope the situation improves.
Business owner Rathi has also taken the first steps in the right direction. Now it is up to the estimated 300 other businesses in Bhiwadi who still use a lot of dirty energy to follow his lead.
Unlike air pollution, contamination of marine environments can be harder to detect, especially when it's done illegally. One culprit, ships polluting the world's oceans with oily wastewater. As our reporters discovered, vessels bypass environmental laws to save time and money with disastrous consequences.
This shaky video was filmed secretly inside of a tanker ship. Secretly, because it shows something that should not be there. Did you see it? Let's watch it again. There it is. This is a bilge pump. Ships use it to illegally dump toxic waste in the ocean. This practice is called bilge dumping, and it's causing one of the worst environmental disasters at sea. First, let's look at what bilge water is. A bilge is the lowest part of a ship, where the two sides meet. Bilge water is the water that accumulates here, except it's not exactly water. Ships of this size are massive machines with labyrinthic pipe systems, engines bigger than coach buses, burning streams of heavy fuel oil. The pipes can leak, the oil can spill, and the engines need cooling and cleaning. All these liquids are collected in the bilge, and it's not a nice view. We know very well that oil can trap and kill animals. Well, bilge water contains oil diluted with water, plus various chemicals and heavy metals. Oil can suffocate and intoxicate fish and birds, and even if they survive, their offspring might not. This is the heart of a normal, healthy fish larva. This is that of a larva exposed to oil. The result? A smaller heart, a slower heartbeat, and lower chances of surviving. Bilge water is so toxic that it has been regulated for more than 50 years. It's a hellish drainage you really don't want to dump in the ocean. To find out what happens to our oceans, we looked at them from the sky.
This is a problem that has been personally bothering me for most of my career.
This is John Amos. He found out about the bilge dumping problem 20 years ago when he founded Sky Truth.
We're a nonprofit organization that uses satellite imagery to shine a spotlight on environmental issues around the world.
And more precisely, radar satellites, which 20 years ago were a very new technology.
And we learned one of the things it's really good for is detecting oil slicks out in the ocean.
Oil companies were already using it to discover oil deposits.
When you find a small oil slick that's always in the same place is a clear sign that there's oil in the rock down there.
But tables have turned.
On those same images, I would regularly see these dark streaks on the water that were not natural, that often had a big ship, a vessel, at the end of the slick.
Enter bilge dumping.
And at the time, looking at those slicks, there was no way for us to identify the vessels that were responsible.
It could take hours for the satellites to send an image. By the time they received it, the vessel was long gone.
It was an extremely frustrating thing.
But everything changed with AIS.
That is an automatic identification system. Its use is also required by international law so that vessels can avoid running into each other.
Ships are now required to transmit their position with a radio signal. Satellites can pick up that signal and record the movements of every ship.
We know the exact time and the exact place from that satellite image. And then we can find the AIS broadcasts that match that most closely in space and time. And when we put it on the screen, we had a clear match of one vessel's track, clearly matching the path of the slick.
For this investigation, algorithms were trained to automatically recognize potential spills. In 1 year, we found 1,500 potential dumps in EU waters alone. The oil dumped this way is roughly equivalent to 5 times the 1989 Exxon Valdez spill. One of the worst marine environmental disasters. Even worse, that's a conservative estimate. And even worse, hardly anybody knows about it. And even worse, this is a deliberate practice. So why are we not holding companies accountable?
There are other features on radar or satellite imagery that can look like an oil slick.
It could be caused by ships carrying fish oil, vegetable oil, or by other elements.
It's not sufficient at this point in any courts of law that I'm aware of. But in combination with other things, it can be powerful accessory evidence to help make a legal case.
To be taken as proof, a visual confirmation must come from someone on the ground.
So we're in a police van here because we're shadowing the German Coast Guard on one of their inspections of a big cargo ship.
Hello, Captain. Nice to meet you. We are here to carry out a MARPOL inspection.
So this huge thing we see down here, that's the motor. Motors of ships are incredibly big. They produce loads of bilge water every day. I mean, just look at the size of it.
The bilge water is collected down here.
So we're actually in the bilge of the boat, which is the bottommost part of a ship in this hole.
And finally, the bilge water passes through this oily water separator.
Which basically separates the good from the bad liquid. The good liquid is discharged, the bad liquid is stored, and then, according to regulation, discharged at the next harbour.
The inspection is over.
Hamburg. So, Captain, that's the attestation about our inspection, all with no deficiencies.
Okay, thank you. No problems this time. But that doesn't mean bilge dumping is not happening. Coast Guards only inspect a fraction of the ships and only check those already docked in a port, not in ICs where the dumping occurs. But there's someone else on the ground that can confirm what satellites reveal. Someone who follows these ships wherever they go. Whistleblowers.
Hello.
Hey, hello. How are you?
I'm good. A little tired. Otherwise, how are you?
I'm good.
This is one of 5 whistleblowers we talked with. We decided to withhold his name to protect his identity. Thanks to his description, we built a 3D model of how bilge dumping works. Here is the bilge tank. And here is the notorious bilge pump.
So what we did was we used that pump to transfer from the bilge tank to another tank called as a clean drain tank. And the whole purpose of a clean drain tank is that only clean liquid comes into it. And we have facility to discharge the contents of that directly overboard.
And here you have it, bilge dumping 101. But there are positive developments.
The new generation of radar imaging satellites that are coming are going to have multipolar, multi-frequency radar systems where we do have an ability to discriminate the type of material that's been discharged. And we'll even be able to say something about the thickness of the oil slick.
Satellite technology is getting so much better that it could one day be enough to incriminate offenders. Until then, we rely on whistleblowers to stop this practice.
So unless there is someone on board, it's very difficult to catch someone without insider.
Their testimonies are crucial for investigations like this. But we shouldn't have to rely on their courage to protect our oceans.
Illegal pollution, of course, doesn't just happen out at sea. Romania is a dumping ground for trash unlawfully shipped there from all over Europe. It's a multi-billion-euro business run by waste smugglers. But investigators are hot on their heels.
This is an illegal landfill outside Bucharest. Last year, Octavian Băceanu was head commissioner of Romania's Environmental Guard, leading an investigation into arson at the site.
A lot of garbage was burned here. For 20 minutes, there was a lot of smoke. 2 more fires like that, and the south of Bucharest would be engulfed in smoke and stench.
Several times in recent years, air pollution in the Romanian capital has exceeded EU limits 100 times over. Heavy traffic is one cause, but so too is the illegal burning of waste, some of which, it's emerged, comes from Germany. Last summer, Romanian border police made a major discovery in the Black Sea port of Constanta, more than 1,800 tons of suspicious waste. It had been declared as plastic, but it also contained metal, tyres, batteries, and even carcinogenic asbestos. It's against EU law to mislabel shipments and export hazardous waste. We head to Germany and Europe's third largest port, Hamburg. Romanian authorities and Greenpeace have implicated a company based here in illegal waste shipments. Over the phone, the metal recycling company Melor says it doesn't want to comment. It failed to respond to an official press inquiry we sent 10 days earlier. Then suddenly the manager appears. We're here about illegal shipments from Melor found in Romania.
No.
You're being prosecuted there.
That's nonsense. It's been cleared up. It's a mistake.
Would you like to say that on camera?
I'm not the right person to talk to.
But you are. That's why we called you.
No cameras.
A few minutes later, the manager acknowledges he's aware of Romania's investigation, but insists his company's waste shipments were legal.
I know the Romanians are investigating, but they didn't analyze the shipment. They glanced at it and thought, oh, there's some cables and a circuit board in there.
But DW has seen the report compiled by Romanian prosecutors. An analysis by a German lab found that the shipment included undeclared toxic components. Back in Romania, we meet Octavian Băceanu at the landfill again. He is no longer in uniform. He was fired. Did his dismissal have to do with his efforts to stop trash smuggling?
This is organized crime. They're shifting waste from countries like Germany, Britain, Italy, but also from Bulgaria and Romania itself.
Some of this waste has travelled thousands of kilometres to get here. The EU Commission says Germany is a key market for waste smugglers. The Hamburg case is just one of many under investigation by prosecutor Theodor Nitzer. He says the problem isn't just dishonest business owners, but also corrupt politicians.
One minister's answer left me speechless. She said, "We can't do it because it would anger the big cement producers, and they have a strong lobby."
He heads to the harbour for another inspection.
I just got a call from the EU Judicial Authority about coordinating the case with Germany and Belgium.
In Romania, charges have already been filed against the Hamburg-based company. China banned the import of plastic waste in 2018. Ever since, Western European countries have increasingly shipped their garbage to Romania, Bulgaria and Poland. Germany is considered a world leader in recycling, an achievement, it seems, that wouldn't be possible without its waste exports to Eastern Europe.
Governments and international organizations like Interpol have the power to bring waste offenders to justice. But addressing environmental contamination on a local level can yield results too. We have two examples from the north and the south of India where women are the ones spearheading drives to clean up their communities.
Clean water for washing and drinking is something that has only recently returned to the village of Alan, thanks to local women. They persuaded residents to meet regularly and clear the stream of plastic waste, most of it dumped by tourists trekking on nearby glacier trails.
Water resources are getting polluted everywhere in the world, so we are trying to keep the water clean in our village. All of us, including elders and children, take it as our responsibility to clean the stream. I'm proud of doing it. As long as I live in this village, I will keep the stream clean.
Alan is nestled in the mountains in the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. The stream is the locals' only source of fresh water. To keep it clean, every household has built a septic tank. That's put a stop to open defecation on the stream's banks.
It is the responsibility of every household here to keep the village clean. Ours is the first village along the course of the stream. It flows down to hundreds of other villages. So if we keep it clean, others will follow too.
Whether in the country or in the city, in India, it's often women who start such initiatives. Clean water and electricity are rare in poor neighborhoods. Many people use kerosene lamps and cook on open fires, both of which can cause lung disease, and both emit climate-heating carbon dioxide. Lakshmi lives in an informal settlement in Bengaluru. A solar lamp changed her life. She started selling the lamps 3 years ago. The income from running her own small business allowed her to move her family into an apartment. Now they have both light and running water.
My children suffered a lot. I have 2 daughters and I used to have to ask them to wake up at 5 a.m. to take a bath before sunrise. But now we have our own bathroom that we can use whenever we want. They can do their daily activities when it suits them best.
She sells the lamps for an NGO and receives a percentage of each sale. The solar lamps cost between 11 and 33 euros a piece, a steep price for most people here. But with the support of the social enterprise Pollinate Group, locals can buy the lamps on credit, interest-free. Lakshmi has convinced other women to switch to solar. Mariamma says the lamps have made a world of difference to her family.
Some days we would run out of kerosene and had to be without light, till we could buy more. Back then, we didn't even have mobile phones to use as flashlights. We would cook and eat and live in darkness. To be honest, these solar lights haven't just lit up my home, they've lit up my life.
In rural and urban communities, women's commitment to effect change, despite limited means, is bringing benefits to their own lives, to their neighborhoods, and the environment too.
The waste and pollution we create on Earth is not going anywhere. We don't have a planet B to send this to. As each one of us takes action to counter this today, our future generations can be assured that they will have access to a clean, green and a healthy planet. I'll leave you with that and see you again next week. Goodbye and thanks for watching.